Welcome. My name's Antonio Sperlin. We're here today with ETV. That's right, Ensley Entertainment District Television. We're here today with Mr. James Anthony Brown.
So direct.
And so we're excited to have you to the...
excited to be here, man.
Yeah, we're glad to have you in the Ensley Entertainment District. And so we're excited to know that you've taken a trek to the state of Alabama and you've come out to the inner city.
I've been here so many times, man.
Okay.
And I met you last night,
Yes.
and I didn't know you had this whole world of entertainment going, man. It's great what you've done with the place, man. It's nice. It's good to be a part of it, and thank you for having me.
No, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And so I understood that just as a child, you grew up in Columbia, South Carolina.
Columbia, South Carolina. My father was in the service, so we traveled a lot.
Okay.
You know, until my mom left my dad. That's a whole nother segment. We don't even talk about that.
No, I understand.
I mean, it's not like it's sad.
No, I understand.
I'm glad she left. So, I mean, you're too serious, man.
No,
you gotta follow me, man.
I'm following you. I'm trying to go with you. I
Yeah,
understand.
so I had a like very cool upbringing, you know, especially like when my mom left, it was just me and my mom.
Right.
And so entertaining myself and having this creative mind was pretty much where it came from.
Right, and I understand that unfortunately both your parents passed by way of
Yeah, they
diabetes.
both passed. But they stayed together. They divorced and stayed together in each other's life just to piss one another off. Yeah, so my mom died first, and my dad had nobody to fight with, so he died. Yeah, I mean, they just stayed. They divorced and stayed in each other's lives until they died. They lived in separate places, but my mom saw my dad every day until she died. She left my dad, and for the next 20 years, she was moving out of my dad's house. She'd go over to my dad's house and go, "That's my pillow. Yeah, I can't," and just take stuff out of the house. And he just put up with it. That was the type of relationship they had.
That's amazing.
They couldn't get along without the other one.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did that affect you growing up?
It was funny to me.
Okay.
It was just like, that's what they, I mean, and you know they were having sex. I mean, I know it. I mean, they were fighting and having sex.
Say if the wallet comes out,
my mother was like,
we know.
My mother, one time she was like, I think she was 58, and she said, "I think I'm pregnant." I'm like, "Y'all still having sex?" I guess so. So, y'all still doing it? Yeah. But that's the type of relationship they had. I miss both of them because I got a lot from both of them. My mom was a funny person. Not that she did stuff funny, but she would always end up in funny situations. My mom, I used to tell this joke about my mom. I remember when they first came out with cordless phones. This is the absolute truth. I bought my mom a cordless phone. You know how you had the house and you could pick the receiver up? And my mom thought that she could take the phone to the mall and call a cab. And so she said, "Do you think if I take this phone to the mall, I can call myself a cab?" So me being stupid, I said, "Well, not unless you take the bottom part with you." And my dad was just, I mean, my dad had a raspy voice. He talked like that. That's how my father sound. Because when he was young, this ain't funny. He got shot in the throat with a BB and it infected. He got shot in the throat with a BB, so his voice was like that. Now, for the first time, you know, in your life, he scared the hell out of grandkids. And, you know, it's something you had to get used to. Like, come and give granddaddy something. Like, But later on, they would get used to it. But my dad had this ability to talk to anybody. And that's what I wish I had. I don't have it. My son has it. I mean, I can do an interview, but my dad can just go in any environment. He could talk to kings, lawyers, doctors. He could always find something that you guys that he could relate to. That either you fish or you hunt or you were in the service, and he could carry on a full conversation. I can't do it.
Well, clearly you have that ability to.
Well, to entertain, it's different than just meeting a stranger and carrying on a conversation. That's what my dad had, and my son has it too.
And that's why I think interviews like this are so important, because it gives the world the opportunity to see behind the veil of the life of a comedian.
Yes.
Because comedians present themselves publicly as always having fun, happy-go-lucky attitudes. You said last night in your show, you said some things start out sad, but at some point you're going to laugh about it.
Everything is funny right away.
That's right.
Everything is funny. Everything is funny not right away. Everything is funny not right away, but after a while you find a point in your life where you can like laugh at it.
That's right.
It just doesn't matter what you go through. At some point you go, "Man, that girl, I was so stupid over that girl. I can't believe I was that damn." Yeah, and your boys, "Yeah, man, you wouldn't even come outside. You didn't shower or nothing, man." And then, later on, you can laugh at it. And that's what life is, you know.
So your background or your training is by tailoring.
My background was I was going to be the world's I was going to be the first South Carolina designer tailor. So I went to school in Denmark.
Right.
Pause.
Yeah.
South Carolina.
So let's get that straight. This United States, Denmark, not across the
So I
water,
go to
right?
school and I would like to throw that out. Oh man, he traveled.
Yeah.
No, it was right down the road from Columbia,
Right.
50 miles. So
Right.
I go to school to get a tailoring degree,
Right.
which was a 2-year course. And my next gig for me was to go to Massey Junior College, which was in Atlanta, to get a designer's degree.
Okay.
What a lot of people don't know, now it has changed a lot, is a lot of designers can't sew. They
Yeah.
can draw, but they can't sew. They can't really take a garment from the beginning and make it. Now it has changed a lot that you really have to know how to sew. But back in that time, so I go to Massey Junior College and I get a grant. And but my grant is short $318, so they wouldn't let me start school. So
Wow.
I'm stuck in Atlanta,
Wow.
and I'm determined not to go back home. I'm not going to go back to Columbia, South Carolina.
Wow.
So I ended up getting a tailoring job. And I ended up getting an MC job at a club called Mr. V's.
That's right.
And I was
Figure
there for like
eight, right?
5 years, and that changed it for me, man.
Yeah, Mr. V's figure eight.
Mr. V's figure eight.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was a gong show, right?
I hosted the Gong Show, but before I got on, I was a guest.
Okay.
I go up and I didn't get gong, and the reason I didn't get gong because I wasn't on stage long enough for them to gong me. I did like one joke and I was out.
Right.
They were like, "He gone."
Right. So you can't get you fast
No,
enough,
they
huh?
can't get you now.
Yeah. And so in 1990, so in the 90s, you moved to Atlanta.
I moved to Atlanta.
Right. And that's where your comedian career really took off.
It
Is that
changed.
right?
Atlanta changed because I was introduced to comics from all over the world. You know, when the Punchline opened, after Mr. V's, they opened a club called the Punchline. And I didn't know you could go to Houston or New York, or you could go, back in that day, you could go to Texas and you could stay in Texas and work comedy for 6 months,
Right.
and never go to the same club. There were so many clubs to work. Or you could go to New York, and it was great because New York comics would come down to LA,
Right.
and they would go, "Where my Jewish people at?" And like, you come to Atlanta, "Where my Jewish?"
Right.
And like, this is
Right.
Atlanta, and
Right.
we don't have a whole lot of Jews down here. But it gave me the experience of going to different places and working on my craft.
Right.
And then when I got a job writing for Arsenio,
Right.
a friend of mine was a writer. His name's Paul Clay. He was a writer on the show. He said, "Come over, hang out." He's writing jokes, and he said, "This is easy. You can do it."
Right.
And one thing led to another. And
Right.
I've been doing this for 30 years.
Right.
Man.
Now,
35 years.
Exactly. Now, before that, you were in 96, if I understand correctly, from 1996 up until November 2016, you were on the Tom Joyner Morning Show.
I worked for Tom Joyner for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And so during
Yeah.
that stint, how were you able to manage your family life with the commitment?
I
you were
didn't
making
have
to
one.
the-
I didn't
Okay.
have one. That was the 3 divorces came up in that.
Right.
Yeah.
I
When I
understand.
lost a lot of
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I felt like Oprah. You get a house and you get a house and you get a house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get a car and you get a car.
Yeah. Yeah. At that stage in your career, what were some of the things you wish you may have done differently? If
I
anything?
wish I had probably spent more time with my kids.
Okay.
You know, personally.
Right.
I mean, I was making really good money, and I was sending money home, so I had a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
But just physically spending more time with them. Now, when I was starting out in comedy, there was a stint in my life where I took my kids on the road with me. I had a little raggedy brown Pinto. I'd load them up in the car, and I tell this story, man. One time I got all 3 of my kids in the car. We're going to do a gig. My car breaks down
Where
on
were
the
you?
road. Of course, my car breaks down, and we're next to a cornfield, and my car is smoking.
Wow.
And I'm looking for my kids, and they're in the damn cornfield. I'm like, Lord, where are my children? You know? And they're just playing. Because, when you have car trouble, that's nothing to children. This
Right.
is an opportunity to play.
Yeah.
And they were in the cornfield. But they would tell you stories how I would take them on the road. I said, I'm going to go do my set. Y'all stay in this room. Don't fight. And they
Wow.
would fight.
Where were you at this time?
I'd do Birmingham,
Okay.
Texas, wherever. We hit the
Right.
road. I'd take them with me.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, those were awesome times. I got 3 kids, 3 baby mamas, so that's a whole nother book. But it was weird, the relationship that I had with my kids, because I can remember having them with me, and at the end of the weekend or nobody wanted to be the first kid to go home.
Wow. How many boys and girls do you
One
have?
boy,
Share with us.
2 girls.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
What are their ages?
My son is 63. I'm lying. That's a lie. That is not how old he is. My son just turned 40. He turned 44 years old.
Okay.
And the girls, we call them the twins because they're the same age. That's a whole nother show too.
Right.
Yeah, they're not twins, but we call them the twins.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you were in LA, I understood you also doing some work with Arsenio Hall.
I was when I was writing for Arsenio Hall. Arsenio Hall ended up getting he had the television show.
Right.
So when I wrote on the Arsenio Hall show, and at the end of the Arsenio Hall show, I ended up getting a job with Tom Joyner.
Right.
But the Arsenio Hall writing job, it made me a better writer. I wish I had this ability to use as much stuff as I write, because I write a lot of stuff.
Right.
I just finished writing for Steve for the daytime show that
Awesome.
he had. So that was about a year and a half of monologues.
Right.
And it was great because it's great to like write something and then give it to a person and see him go on television and go, oh man, I wrote that.
Right.
But there were times when we'd go out and it wouldn't work. So Steve had this thing that he would do to us, the writers. Whenever he'd do a monologue and it didn't work, he'd bring the writers out, and it was called the Walk of Shame. So we'd have to come out. But our attitude was, it was funny in the room.
Right.
You know, when we wrote it, it was funny.
Right.
Yeah, something happened on the way down here, but
Right.
you couldn't say that.
Right.
I remember getting a call for this part, and I get the script, and it said coach, and I thought it was a football coach.
Right.
So because back then they would call the director of a band the coach.
Right.
So I see the script and it says a coach, and I'm thinking I got to talk like a coach, you know, but it's really a band director. So I go and I read for the band director, and he says, you did real good. Now, can you come back tomorrow in your loudest suit? Well, I've been on so many auditions, you know. I'm like, I ain't dressing up like a pimp, man. If you want me on this, I'll do it. But what got me the part was they needed somebody who could play the drums. And so since I played drums in high school, they said, well, we need a video of you playing, and I played the drums. And that's basically how I got the part. 'Cause I wore the suit in the movie, but I wasn't wearing it for the audition.
So did you work with Arsenio Hall for both stints of his show?
Yeah, I worked with him when he had a cable show, and I worked with him for 5 years on the Arsenio Hall show. Right. Arsenio, when you look back at it now, there was nothing that he did that should have taken him off the air. Now, a lot of people said it was the Farrakhan booking, but now you can book Farrakhan on the show.
Well, you know, unfortunately, they've tried to issue a ban against him.
Yes. I mean, some of the stuff Farrakhan says is what Farrakhan says, and you have to understand, just because you say it, you can't have the attitude that I'm going to say it and it's not offensive to somebody.
Right.
It's how that person perceives it,
Right.
and if they perceive it as offensive, that's what it is.
Right.
I mean, that's what the Me Too movement is basically about. Mm-hmm. It's what you say and it's how I'll accept it.
Right.
You can't go, well, that's not what I meant. That's what I accept, and that's just the way it is. So.
Exactly. So even in that sense, everyone's entitled to free speech. So he says what he desires.
He's saying what he wants to
Right,
say. Yeah.
Exactly. So even as a comedian, when you weigh out your opinions to comedy, do you think in terms of what society may or may not embrace at the time of joke?
Yes, there's certain things you can't. There's certain stuff that you can't do on the radio that you can do in a club.
Right.
And there's certain stuff that you can't do in a club. Period.
Really?
That's, it's because now we live in an age where people are videotaping. I mean, comics have been in a position where they've said stuff in the club, it's been videotaped, and they had to go back and apologize. I have never had that problem. There's only one person, and it was because I was doing song parodies. I do J. Anthony Brown's Murders and Hits.
Yeah.
There's only one person that got mad at me because I made fun of him, and it's Keith Sweat. Keith, I love you. But I said that Keith Sweat sounds like a bee. Whine, whine, whine. And he just thought that it's not funny. It's funny to me.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he sold millions of records. And I was not a big fan of John Legend. Okay. I thought his stuff was boring. And, it is. He started singing up-tempo song now, but boring. So, but you understand with the power that you have on that radio,
yes,
that you can attack a person, and not so much attack, you can make fun of a person who may not think what you say is funny, and that's just what it is.
Right. Right. Do you think comedy has a responsibility to society to kind of push the issues that need to be addressed?
If you're that comic, all comics should just not be pushing issues.
Right.
Yeah. Just don't push the issue. Just do the mama jokes and stay there.
Yeah.
Just
how do you classify your comedy as it relates to society? Obviously, you're
I
hilarious,
got this from George Carlin. I'm a big George Carlin fan, and he described his comedy as ooh yeah comedy, meaning when you say something, you get the audience to go, oh yeah, I do that too. You know,
Right.
like if you go in the refrigerator 4 or 5 times, you know there's nothing in there, but you keep going back. And, oh yeah, I do that. Or you go to somebody's house and the commode doesn't work, and you're standing there, you know, oh yeah. And so that's basically what I try to do. That I get people to relate to, you know, that ooh yeah effect, because whatever it is you say, pretty much there's somebody out there that can relate to it. So what you want to try to do is get as many ooh yeah effects as you possibly can.
Okay. And so I understand you also have a comedy club.
It's the J Spot Comedy Club. It's Los Angeles, California.
Yeah, Manchester
And
Road,
Manchester, and it's been there for 11 years. I started it with my son, and it's doing okay. It's not doing great. Nowhere near what the Stardome is doing.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish I was someplace else. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah, and so even with having your own business, and I understand that area, California is a pretty
Woo, it's tough. It's
competitive out there in that type of market.
Yeah.
What do you think in terms of some of your associations? I noticed you're a member of Phi Beta.
Blue Phi, you know, and what are you?
I'm an Alpha.
I'm
Alpha
sorry to
Phi
hear
Alpha.
that, sir.
Yeah,
I
okay.
really am.
So does your fraternal organization
I haven't
support
reached
you?
out to them as much as I really should.
Okay.
I mean, I've gone to the conclave and I performed there a couple of times, but I must admit that I have not reached out to the bros like I really should, and it's an untouched market for me that I, you know, on my own accord, that I have not reached out and
Right.
done as much work as I possibly can. Now that I'm dealing with leukemia and dealing with the Cancer Society, it's something that I think I'm going to really get involved in, because it's a market that's there, and they're just waiting for you to reach out to them,
Right.
and then they reach back, and so
Right. You know, even with having that health issue you've mentioned, I noticed that you've just been abounding constantly. Every time I've seen your material since you've made the announcement publicly about that.
I have to. I know. For one reason, I'm not looking at myself as a spokesperson, but it's just how I'm going to deal with it. It's that I'm not going to let this change my spirit. Now, I can be a depressing person, but I'm not going to be a depressing person with cancer. I'm just not. That's not going to happen.
Well, you've obviously, managed to keep your emotions intact and also continue to thrive with your career. I mean, what would you say to other persons of any
Oh my God!
state in life if they're dealing with that type of illness? What do you think some of the key
I
things
think
you need to
it's
do?
your attitude. If you can try to keep a positive attitude, I've been speaking to people who I found out who have cancer, and I usually tell them, eliminate yourself, get out of your existence all the people that are negative.
Wow.
Get rid of them.
Wow.
Move them out of your way. If they're not for you, then they're against you. If you have the slight bit of you have that look like you look like you did, get that person out your life. Get them away from you. I mean, I'm no minister, but some days you got to get some Bible nourishment in you,
Yes.
like one day a week or once a month or bedside manner. You got to get. That's just me.
How do you think, in your opinion, as we get ready to conclude in just a moment, comedians deal with the vulgarity of the comedy, but yet the life of their beliefs? Do you think that at any?
It's a balancing act. I mean, I take Bill Cosby for instance. He was America's dad.
Yes.
Hey,
Right.
So you had no idea of what he was doing. I'm off stage. I'm gonna be. But now I knew Bill Cosby. I will be doing wheelchair stand-up when they. Bill Cosby cursed a lot. I mean, he didn't curse on stage, but he had a foul mouth. He'd be like, "Mr. Cosby, did you hear Mr. Cosby curse?" And so he was. That was a balance that he had. That he was dealing with, and it got the best of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever talk to other key comedians around town, like D.L. Hewley? Do you
Yes,
have
I
a
talked to
list?
DL. I mean, I was set to do DL's show. George Wallace and I are good friends. I mean, anybody in this business that's been in this business, I would say for the last 25 years, I know them
That's good.
on a first name basis.
Now, with that track record, and with your reputation, and with your future in comedy, do you see yourself retiring at any?
I'm gonna be. I will be doing wheelchair stand up when they, rolling to the stage, and they put a bib on me and the mic, they clip a mic on. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And then the guy comes, let me get his mouth. No, I'm joking. I don't want to be that bad.
Right.
But it's just something that you can do for a long time.
Right.
It's not like roofing. It's not. I'm not laying tile. I'm not putting bricks. It's just me talking. And as
Right.
long as you can talk and communicate
Right.
with an audience, you got to understand. As you get older, your audience get older. So
Right.
you got to find a way to bring them in, along with bringing in a New York. And the social media has changed that.
Right.
There are people that have no idea what Drumline is, but they know me from the radio.
Right.
And there are people who know Drumline, but they don't know that I'm on the radio, or they don't know that I'm a comedian. So
Right.
social media, the internet has changed the game.
Yes,
And if
exactly.
you're in any type of medium, if you're in type of entertainment, and you don't connect to social media, if you got a flip phone and you've had a flip phone for a long time, you are a complete dummy, because you're missing a whole world out there. If you're still texting one letter at a time, you are behind the damn time. If your phone folds up like that, you need to get a damn life.
With your lineage in comedy and your length of time in comedy, and all the doors that you've opened, some of which I'm sure you've had to forcefully open, how do you want to be remembered in your legacy as a
Oh
comedian?
man, that's a very good question. Yeah, I don't even know how to answer that, because I've done so much. I mean, I'm at this point, I'm really enjoying life now.
Right.
I mean, to be able to do this at this age. I mean, I have another really good job. I was with Tom for 20 years, and it's very not normal for a person my age to leave a job for 20 years and then end up on another radio show, a top radio show, not
Right.
just where I'm in a one market. I'm in a major market, working on a major radio show.
Right.
And that's a testament to the man upstairs.
It really is, and that's a big deal, because I
Yes.
know that your last year with Tom Joyner was in November of 2016.
Yes.
And so you started with the current show that you're on with respect to Mr. Steve Harvey. That was in 2017.
But see, people think, well, Steve just picked. Steve and I go back from day one. I met Steve on the road when we were working on the road. So we've been friends for years. I worked for him on other shows. I've been there. I was with Steve. I was actually with Steve when he got an audition for the Apollo. I was with Steve when he got his audition for a Family Feud. So we've been knowing each other for years. We met on the road. The story is that I'm working on the road. I get a knock on the door, and it's Steve Harvey. And he says, I'm supposed to be rooming with you. And I'm like, no, I don't room with nobody. He said, well, I ain't got no money. He says, well, here, you go back downstairs. I gave him the money. You go back downstairs and get you a damn room, because I'm not rooming with nobody. So he goes and get a room, and he come back. He said, do you have an iron? I'm like, yeah, I got an iron. And then he closes the door back. He says, do you have an extension cord? So we've been friends for years. I was working for Steve doing the Steve Harvey show before he got syndicated.
Right.
Because we would work, and I would do the Tom Joyner show from 3 to 7 in the morning, which was live LA time.
Right.
Steve was just on in the LA market. So when I would leave Tom at 7, I'd go and hang out with Steve, and he was just on in the LA market. And that's where he started calling me Bitter Man.
Yeah, 20 years ago, I had the pleasure of working with Al Joyner, who was
Oh, yeah,
Tom
Tom's
Joyner's
brother.
And they have
The funniest Joyner in the world.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah, he is.
10 times funnier than Tom. Sorry, Tom.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, your brother, who's not longer with us, is funnier than you.
yeah,
Yeah.
Al Joyner was hilarious.
Al Joyner was a natural comic, man. He
Yes.
really was.
Yes.
And I would come to Birmingham. It was so fair. And I would call Tom and say, man, your brother, he would call for like 40 tickets. I'm like, man. And
Who does that?
He would. He's
For
like, Jay,
free.
I said, man, your brother asked for 40 tickets, and he's got 72 McDonald's, and he's never bought me a bag of fries or nothing, man. But
Yeah.
he was just a sweetheart, man. He
He
loved
was.
comedy.
He does.
He loved entertainment, and he was just cool. And I'm glad that I met him through Tom. He was
Yeah.
a good guy.
Yeah, he's a
you know,
good-
he would invite you to his home and
Yes.
do a big spread for
Yes.
you. He was just he
Yes.
just loved life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A beautiful family, too.
Yeah.
Wife.
And it was so weird. They
son.
had a good relationship, Tom, and all he wanted to do was. And Tom, I know Tom feels bad that he never let his brother. You know, when Tom would give the time, he'd go 25 before the hour.
That's right.
Tom wouldn't let him do it, and I know it's like that's all the man wanted.
At the season of your life, and with the variation of other comedians' desire to become as successful and influential as you are, not only in the U.S. but I'm sure in other states and just abroad, how important is it for you, or have you taken the responsibility or thought to say that you're going to be the conduit by which other comedians will continue to launch their career
Yes.
and tread those same stones or those paths that you've already blazed so that their load is not as heavy?
Well, I think one of the things that the younger comics have now, the internet has totally changed the game.
Yes.
No longer do you have to go from what is called the Chitlin circuit. You don't have to work that way. So if you have a medium that is going to make you reach 50 or 60 people and you're not using it, shame on you.
Right.
Now, I know a lot of comics who hate the fact that these internet comics, but it's the same thing that we did. There were comics that were out there before we were, and we came on Def Jam and we just blew up.
Right.
Def Jam changed the game. Well, Def Jam is 35 years old now, so
Right.
it's the internet,
Right.
and it's paving the way. And maybe 20 years from now, you won't even be the internet. It'll just be your mind. I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be something different.
Yeah.
And you just have to embrace that. Either get on board as to what it is, or just get your ass out the way.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
having
you
we
so much for
appreciate both
having
of you
me,
for having
man.
us, and we're just so glad. And remember again tonight, the Comedy Club
And tomorrow
starting-
night.
and tomorrow night, Friday
And
night.
Christians, there will be some cursing, so a lot. So don't.
Make sure you come out and support.
Yeah, make sure,
J. Anthony
yeah.
Brown, the Comedy Club
Ooh, he
tonight
cuss a lot. Yeah,
and
there will be.
tomorrow night.
And a lot
Thank
of
you so
cussing.
much. Be
As
sure to
much
tune in
cussing
with
as
us
you think
again.
I'm gonna do, add more to that, okay? So you'll know.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you for
appreciate it so
having
much.
me.
Thank you.